some very clear responses of like, good, and over here we had a wonderful. So
that sounded sarcastic.
No, I know, but I believed you. Like, even though I just feel like that is the vibe, right? Yeah, it's just the vibe you're putting out there. You mean it, but it's just like, you don't have to be at 125% energy at all times. Like, you can sustain that. That's not sustainable. Great. Well, everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this fine Saturday afternoon in Long Beach, California. My name is Emma Fyffe. I am a senior creative producer at Fandom, GameSpot, Giant Bomb, all of our various internet entities, and I am absolutely delighted to be your moderator today for the 4Kids Flashback panel. Oh boy, there's a fall guy entering right now. Come on. I mean, I can't just pretend like that didn't happen. I would look like an insane person. I'll look like an insane person for many other reasons, I'm sure, but not addressing the fall guy in the room would certainly lead to that. And now, let me introduce you to the hosts of the 4Kids Flashback podcast. We have Tara Sands and Steve Yurko. All right, so first off, Tara, tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind why you got this podcast up and going, and Steve, how you came to be the other half of it.
So, hi, I'm Tara. I'm a voice actor. I was doing voiceover for a little while as a teenager, and I got my very first anime job working for a company called 4Kids. My controversial statement. My very first anime job ever was an episode of Pokemon called Bulbasaur and the Hidden Village. I see Bulbasaur right there.
Yeah.
I see you. And I worked for 4Kids for many years. Probably played 7,000 roles on their many, many shows, as we all did. And I had no idea that there was anything real controversial about the company until I started doing conventions. And I would meet you amazing people, and some of you would say really, really nice things to me about how I was part of your childhood, and hug me and thank me. And some of you would yell at me and say, how dare I ruin the anime they loved. And I was like, oh, all right, there's something here. Okay, and I started, looking into it. I realized, I knew we had censorship issues, but I didn't know how deep they went. I didn't know about changes to storylines. I didn't know, because by the time that stuff got to us, we were just in the dark. We were working really fast. So, fast forward many years, and I did want to make some kind of podcast about the company, because I was like, no one's done people have done stuff, but they haven't talked to the people who were there. No one came to me, no one came to the writers, and I'm like, there's just all these myths and rumors, and I guess I'll be the one to tell the story if no one else is gonna do it. And I reached out to a podcast company and I said, I wanna do this, and then that's where Steve comes in.
Hi, I'm Steve. I've been podcasting for 15 years now.
What's the big one?
Oh, sorry, that joke fell flat. I meant to say I was at an AA meeting.
Sorry.
My name's Steve. I've been podcasting now for nearly 15 years on a podcast called the One Piece Podcast. Try and guess what that's about.
It's about Yu-Gi-Oh!
Precisely. We've been doing that show for a long time now. A long time because I didn't even know what a podcast was before I joined it. But of course, the big elephant in the room there was at one point there was another version of One Piece, the anime, dubbed by 4Kids. Long story short, it didn't go so hot. And of course, that was just always as a Western fan, it always got brought up in conversation at some point. Eventually, we did a podcast, a mini-series, where my co-host Alex and I watched through every single episode and talked about it. And
it was called Forced to Watch 4Kids.
That's what it was. Because if it felt like that sometimes.
But great alliteration, you know?
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah.
I know that's the number 4 and the, yeah.
And thank you, I came up with it. But it was like, it started as a goof, but the more we did it, the more we just had questions. Like why were some of these choices made? How come you couldn't have English text on a show that was in English, on books and on signs? And like it's so many other things I'm just spacing out, but it's like so many like strange edits, puns too, and we just thought like there's no way we're ever gonna get. I guess we're just never gonna know. And then I don't know, Zach, who also hosts the show, I guess he dusted off an email he hadn't checked in a while, and Tara came emailing a while.
About 6 months later.
Yeah. But I thought like, and as she said, she wanted to do a show, talk with people that were there, kind of getting some actual stories, some real facts out there. And I thought, great, this would be a great show. I think we should produce this. I can't wait to listen to it. and then they asked me to be the co-host. Because I remember waking up at 6:30 in the morning, watching the WB11 in New York, catching Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
When it first hit the airwaves, and I've been there. I was watching Pokemon. I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I began to hate watch 4Kids TV. I was there for all of it, and we thought like, it's like we need someone with experience watching stuff, as opposed to people that had experience working there. So.
And his memory is insane. He remembers. I've never watched these shows.
Yeah.
I can't watch myself, so thank God that.
Like in 2004, they had a poll of what show they should air early between One Piece, F-Zero, GP Legend,
Whoa.
and Mew Mew Power. And I remember Mew Mew Power was absolutely killing it on the online.
Wait, but.
And then 4Kids said, F-Zero wins. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. There's a hint. That's a taste of my memory of 4Kids. So.
Steve, were you an angry message board kid?
Oh yeah. Because I remember starting to begrudgingly watch 4Kids properties when Shaman King was licensed.
Oh right.
I was on a forum, Shaman King Uncensored.
I did my best work on that show.
You tried.
I tried my best.
No, and I just remember like we were just like, because from my point of view, and you know, I was young back then, but it was kind of just like, it's like, oh, we love these series. It's like we want to see them. We want to see them here in the U.S. But we want to see them, you know, as they were. You know, it's like stop writing out, you know, deaths and stop giving characters weird accents. It was a lot of that.
Sorry, you didn't think that Joey's like Brooklyn accent?
No, that could stay. That could stay. Because at the time period, like the Shonen Jump magazine in the U.S. was a thing.
Yeah.
So I was being introduced to all these series, like, oh, this manga's great. And it's like 4Kids has the anime, and it's like.
It's not all hate though. I know that the podcast is not all hate.
Yeah, so
But it's a lot of
I was gonna say, so I actually want to like go back to the time when 4Kids was handling a lot of these anime dubs, because it was a time when accessibility as far as anime went. I mean, it was a struggle to get your hands on anime. I don't know if anybody else out here is as old as I am and used to like go in the back room at the general like Asian import store, and they just went like behind literally like a bed sheet curtain, and that's where all the questionably legal fan sub VHSs were. But that's the thing, is that like we basically were just consuming what we were presented with, and I assume, Tara, that on your end dubbing these shows, that was very much what it was.
Yeah, so the same time we were dubbing for 4Kids, we were also working for a company called Central Park Media. I don't know if you guys remember what that is.
Yes.
Yes. Some of you are too young. Yeah. And I remember I would go to like Tower Records, and there was a tiny little section where they had those videotapes.
Yeah.
The VHS tapes. And no one watched very few people watched that stuff. And when I worked for 4Kids, a lot of it, we're like, no one's ever going to see this.
No one with an internet connection.
Yeah. So again, I think, and we took it as actors. I think I came at it in a different way.
Yeah.
But again, I always joke that like if you're from New York, you would have to go to Kim's Underground Video to like find any anime.
Oh yeah.
So again, we had no idea that this was going to be a big deal. We quickly figured it out. I mean, you know, when it was on every newspaper cover and every news story, and kids in school cards were being banned from schools. Who had their cards taken away in school?
I was so I'd already gone through Tamagotchis at that point, so like I was an expert at like hiding my stuff. It went Pogs, Tamagotchis, Pokemon cards.
Yo-yos. Was yo-yos?
Yo-yos! Oh my God, yes!
Duncan? Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, I had like I think mine was like a Firestorm or something. It was yellow and red. I was very
You are so
Well, I think we're in good company.
Yeah.
I think we are. No, I do. Well, and so again, it's like, I think though that Pokemon in particular was so crucial in helping to popularize anime in the US, because I think that before that, a lot of the time people looked at anime, and there was a lot of assumption that it was kind of all hentai. And then you have Pokemon, and it's like, oh, this is definitely a show for kids. And you know, Steve, as you were mentioning, I was in the same boat as you. I woke up early every morning before school when I was, you know, in 6th grade, I want to say, to watch Pokemon before I got on the school bus.
And what we're learning, we're talking, so basically the podcast is us interviewing everybody we possibly can who worked there.
Yeah.
You know, mostly behind the scenes people, because the actors can't answer the questions. We're interviewing the writers and the producers and the guy who made the Yu-Gi-Oh logo, and it is an amazing story. I mean, it really was a fascinating story. But what we're learning is it was either make these changes to these shows or not have them air at all.
Yeah.
And honestly, I truly feel that if they had not aired at all, we might not be sitting here right now.
I totally agree, because as you say, anime was such a niche market.
Yeah.
And yes, there was some anime on TV. Pokemon, of course, was a huge shining example, and I think also helped kind of in a way, even though it didn't air on Toonami on Cartoon Network, but I feel like it kind of helped usher in that era where they took this anime that had already been dubbed but nobody had seen, and then because it was airing at weird syndicated times really early in the morning, and they went, okay, let's put this all in an after-school block so that people can actually see it. And so it's very interesting to me, because I actually think that it's because of, you know, 4Kids and these early dubs that that was kind of people's gateway into like becoming full-blown otaku, and that's what led to people then being like, I hate this, they're ruining everything.
Yeah.
Would you say that was your experience?
Yeah, I would say so. Begrudgingly. No, I can't help but agree, because I was aware of anime at the time, but it was very niche. Even like the anime that was on Cartoon Network at that time was like Speed Racer, Voltron, Robotech. That was about it. It was very like, it was retro stuff. And then Pokemon really kind of ushered that in for me. It was the gateway. I think because I liked Pokemon so much, I was willing to give Dragon Ball Z a shot, and like just have faith in whatever Toonami had on at that point. So I think that's accurate. I think that's very true.
One of the interviews we did was with a writer named Mike Pecorello, who's awesome, and then he ended up being, he left 4Kids to work at Nickelodeon, and I said, what was the feeling about 4Kids at like a company like Nickelodeon? Were they like 4Kids, or were they like, he's like, no, they were like, we want to figure out how to do this. We want to make all that money they're making with the toys and the things, so it wasn't frowned. I was afraid he was going to say, no, they were laughing at them, but no, it was respected, because listen, it was about commerce. I mean, the bottom line is the shows were a vessel to sell toys.
Yeah.
Let's
that's 100%. No, that's 100% what it was, and it's interesting because, you know, in my research of sort of history of anime and its popularity in the US, I used to do a Sailor Moon podcast for years, and so, you know, looking into Sailor Moon specifically, that is exactly what they wanted. They wanted to bring Sailor Moon to North America to sell toys. And famously, there was almost a hybrid live-action animation version of Sailor Moon by Toon Makers, and it has a very Saban sort of feel to it, like Power Rangers. But again, it was because Power Rangers had been so successful that suddenly these companies became interested in bringing Japanese properties to America because they saw the money Bandai was raking in with toy sales.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, and then especially, something like Pokemon as well, you found yourself in a position of not only was there this anime, but I think that the anime really helped bolster the popularity of the video games in the US.
Yes. And 4Kids did, so and again, things that we learned, 4Kids had the licensing to everything except the cards and the video games, which were the big money makers. So they had to work hard to make a ton of money to make up for not having the rights to those things. And we talked to the president of 4Kids, Norman Grosveld, and we talked about One Piece. And basically, what we found out was he said they wanted, okay, first of all, let's dispel the rumor. You want to dispel the rumor?
Oh, the one where it was like 4Kids was tricked into licensing One Piece so they could get the magical Doremi. That's not true. I don't have to get long-winded in that, but no, One Piece was huge, and it was like license that huge anime and make that huge anime money. So.
Well, it wasn't even that huge anime money. It was that Toei wanted the toy money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were like, figure out how to put this on the air so we can make toys of One Piece. And I don't remember any One Piece toys from that time. Do you?
No, I don't remember.
Oh, I do.
You do? What do you remember?
From Mattel, yeah.
Oh, we gotta get anyone have
Yeah, the stretching Luffy.
Who has Mattel One Piece toys on you right now? Please bring them up here, hand them to I'm just kidding.
Someone frankly runs out of room.
Tell us about these One Piece toys though that you did come across. Well, but it's interesting because again, like coming at it from the toy angle, I remember so vividly in the initial syndicated run of Sailor Moon on some of the UPN networks and things. I vividly remember that the way I was introduced to it was seeing toy commercials.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because they had those Barbie.
They were basically like Barbie type dolls, and I, being a Barbie fan, was like, I gotta get these. And that is truly how any of this comes to be. It really is the commerce of it. And so I think that 4Kids, again, number one, they called the company 4Kids, so literally it's like we're making stuff for children, and it did a really good job of marketing itself to kids.
Yeah, well, see, this is another thing we learned, again, if I bore you.
Shut
up. But, okay, so we understand that we have to change lollipops to, cigarettes to lollipops. We understand that we have to do this. But the stuff I didn't know was that, and I knew there's something called these kid vid laws and standards and practices, all this stuff.
Yeah.
You can't air a commercial for a toy. You can't put a Yu-Gi-Oh toy commercial on during Yu-Gi-Oh. There's a certain amount of time you had to wait before that could even air so that the kid would not confuse the show for a commercial, or the commercials for a show, vice versa.
That's fascinating.
Right? So the fact that you saw that commercial, it couldn't have been on during
it wasn't during Sailor Moon. It was watching X-Men,
Right, so they're contending with all these rules, right? This is the stuff I didn't realize. And again, that's just another uphill battle for them. And again, because I still have one. See, I'm still savvy about 4Kids.
Of course,
And I just lost what I was going to say. No, I think when I was watching through the 4Kids version of One Piece, I think a lot of it was like, how much of this is on 4Kids and how much of it is standards and practices? Because the rules of cartoons on a Saturday morning from 6 a.m. to noon, completely different than any other time of day. Because probably a lot of you at some point watched Toonami, whether it was the weekday block.
I think they all watched
the midnight run when they could show blood and they could curse a little bit.
They got away with way more. So I think doing this podcast, kind of finding out that I think a lot of it was a lot of the 4Kids edits might seem like overkill, but I think it was almost like that. They're like, hey, we really got to make sure this is good to go so we don't get any notes back.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, because thank you guys who interact with us on social media, because you guys bring a lot of great stuff to our region, so thank you. But someone said this week, and I was going to talk about it in our intro when we record this week. So we were recording in New York. 4Kids was based in New York City. We started around 1998. 2001, September 11th happens in New York. Standards and practices, all that kind of stuff. We were even more cautious.
Yeah.
And everyone was even more cautious, especially with children's television, about violence, about destruction, about all of this stuff. It just intensified censorship. And that didn't occur to me, but of course, duh.
Yeah,
Of course, and it should have, and good. I'm glad,
Oh yeah.
Again, still the lollipop cigarette and the donut and the...
And the jelly
I know all
donuts.
the
The puns.
Yeah.
Americans couldn't possibly understand what onigiri is.
Listen, episode 1 of our show, we tackled the jelly donut. Listen to episode 1 if nothing else. Interview Michael Hakely. He's like, it was late. I was writing. I didn't know what onigiri. Like I just said donut. I don't know. He's like, I didn't need to start an international incident.
It was the very early days of the internet. We weren't quite the globally aware population that we are now. So
You used to talk to people in person instead of texting.
I know. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it up because I wanted to say I think part of it was because there were so many changes to the anime, like getting rid of a lot of like the Japanese cultural stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's still like it's a bygone era back then when they thought kids will not comprehend this. And I think that wasn't giving kids the benefit of the doubt, or at least like maybe just like why not like kind of introduce them to something different that they're not used to. I think in the early 90s we're still coming off of that weird kind of xenophobia with Japan, to be frank, not to get too real. But I mean, and also like if you go back and look at the public response to Pokemon, it's really cringy the way some news reported on it. Just like, oh, Japan is invading us. When it's like, no.
There was a lot of rhetoric of like the Japanese invasion from a media
Yes,
standpoint.
in media, yeah. It's not like the episode of South Park. It's like, but I kind of like, I can't help but sympathize a little bit because I think it was like, that was still like, well, this is the way, this is how it's done. I mean, Pokemon was still a huge success. Jelly donuts be damned. But I think like nowadays, it's so different now. It's just, especially with, me as like someone who's like watched anime dubs like since the 90s, just seeing how just not only like how true they are to like the original script, but just like how like everyone kind of is aware of so many of these cultural things now. But it's definitely like a lot of it is like it was the times, as they say.
Well, I'm curious too, Tara, for you, because anime dubbing was so novel and new in the US at the time. I mean, and as you say, you went into it thinking, is anybody even gonna watch this? Like what was your, I mean, like what was going through your head when you first started like voicing this cute little creature with a bowl throwing out its back?
All right, so I'll give the quick version. So basically, I was hired for that episode to play a character named Melanie.
Right.
And I'm always early. I can't help it. So I got there early. Luckily, I got to watch Veronica Taylor dub the role of Ash. So I was like, okay, this is how dubbing works. Okay, good. Okay, I got this. And then we did Melanie's lines. We finished early. And they said, hey, while you're here, you see that like bluish guy? So the Oddish and Bulbasaur were in that episode. So they were like, okay, so sound like the Japanese. They played me this Japanese, and it was like, dame, because it was Fushigi Dane, Japanese. And they said, sound like that, but say Bulbasaur. what else do I say? And I said, just Bulbasaur. And I was like, good luck with your show. But I was very young, very eager, and I think we were making $40 an hour, and it sounded like just a windfall. And I did it, and again, it's the mouth clap. That's why sometimes it's star, and sometimes it's and I did it.
I'm looking at life in a whole new light now. I know.
It's weird, right? So I left, and again, they didn't know they gave me a big part. They had no. Well, because
they were only getting episodes in small batches.
1 or 2
yeah.
episodes, and and Michael Hagee says in the interview, he goes, we knew there were 150 of them, so we figured, okay, a couple, 3 or so per episode, and that they would keep rotating.
Right.
So luckily, it was just luck that was one of my roles. Because again, I was excited about playing Melanie, and none of you know who that is.
She was very soft-spoken, I remember.
She was very sweet. And I look at a lot of that work, and it's not that it's, and again, I never want to trash the actors, and we're very careful about that on the podcast, because, and the writers too. I mean, listen, they were doing a job. These are great writers who have done some amazing things that you have all watched since then or before then, or we were doing the best we could in a very confined amount of time with very little information. I mean, we go into detail. There's I'm trying to remember, it'll come up, I think it's the interview with like John Kalish or somebody, where they would ask the Japanese, like, hey, can you tell us where this character line is going so we know how to write? And sometimes they refuse to give them information. So that is the answer for a lot of the times why certain characters are not fleshed out, or storylines are changed, because they're keeping it safe in case something crazy happens in the next episode.
Right.
Their hands were often really tied, and they couldn't count on the manga for being exactly the blueprint for the show, unfortunately. So, I don't know. It's a long-winded way of saying.
Well, no, I mean, because I think that's the thing is you really were creating in a bubble, and again, there wasn't this big global awareness of like, this is where the story is going. You had to really seek that out, and even then, it was like I was looking at scanned manga pages and reading like RTF docs with translations of what it said in the bubbles, because and also doing this all on broadband internet, which like took you to like dial up, and oh my god, it took forever. It took forever. I will never forget when we first got like cable internet, and I downloaded just so many anime theme songs.
And when the writers started, I mean, we talked to a lot of them about this, the way they would write the episodes, they would have the literal translation, right? They would have a VHS tape, they would be rewind, pause, try to count the lip
mouth flaps, yeah.
I mean, come on. Like,
VHS.
Yeah.
I feel for them. I mean, considering it, a pretty freaking good job. Like, I don't know. So
well,
it's hard for me to bash.
In addition, it's like, they're dealing with the constraints of having to match the flaps. Writing dub scripts is very challenging. It is a totally different skill set. Just like dubbing is a different skill set.
Totally different.
And on top of that, again, they have no idea where the story is going, and they're dealing with all kinds of guidelines that are like, you can't do this, you can't do this, because of the time block that these shows were airing in. So
I also want to add, doing this podcast, like finding out how young a lot of you were.
Us, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The people that work there, yeah.
I was like, you? Okay.
We all, well, we were young because we were talking about
children.
No, just like a lot of you were like fresh out of college, like the actors and stuff, and even like a lot of the people on the production side. It's, again, it's like I remember where I was going out of college. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great gig, and it's like, why not? Good job. I don't know. I don't know.
Once in a while, Steve will say something nice about the work we do.
Get paid $40 an hour to just say Bulbasaur into a microphone.
But it's like, it was still at a time where it's like you didn't have that instant feedback on social media.
Yes.
It was like you had to go you had to go digging, find those forums until 4Kids made their own forums.
Or you had to like hang out in the magazine sector at like a Borders and be reading New Type for in America, and then like somebody else would come over and see that you were reading that magazine, and they'd be like, oh, you also like anime? And then you would talk about it. that was my experience.
Sweet.
So obviously, one of the reasons that we're doing this live panel today is we want to get some questions from all of you that you like, topics that you want answered on the podcast, things that you're curious about. So I'm going to come down there, and if you have any questions, Tara's going to be making a list. Oh yeah, here, give me some ribbons. I got ribbons for people who come ask questions.
Some of the questions you have, we might already have answers to. So basically, there's I think 12 episodes out right now. But we've done over 30 interviews. So we've gotten a lot of questions answered. Hopefully we can answer whatever you guys have here, but if we can't, we're gonna add it to the list. And we're gonna try to find out for you guys. We've already found some lost media.
Yes!
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll tell you this. So we found at least one lost Ultraman dubbed episode, possibly two. And this is the news flash.
Breaking news right here at Anime Los
I don't know if anyone's
Angeles.
gonna care about this, but we found some lost episodes of Funky Cops. Who remembers Funky Cops?
You know I
That's
missed
one
that
down.
one.
Yeah.
Like 3 people.
Wait, do you remember it? You're like the Rolodex.
Oh yeah, I remember it. Not well, because I think I didn't watch that one too much, but Funky Cops, yeah. How could you forget that premise? They're cops and they're funky.
The one thing that I think most people can agree on is the music that 4Kids did was pretty solid.
Oh yeah.
So we've interviewed two music writers so far, and they're fascinating.
I will
people.
say that some of those early dubs, they did replace the music, and you know, the music in the deep 90s dub of Sailor Moon is amazing. Like, it's so good. Thank you. You get it. All right, so if you do have any questions that you would like answered, please just form an orderly queue right here. All right, people are making their way up.
We'll also take comments.
Yeah, comments are like, yeah, this is a podcast, so like, if you just want to get something off your chest,
Yeah,
that's also
you
fine.
can yell at us.
Yes, all right. Hello, what is your name?
I'm Lindsay.
Hi. What's your question?
You guys are talking about media power?
We are slowly starting to. So one of our second interview is with Jim Malone, who was the producer of Mew Mew Power. We have a lot of, Magical Jeremy and I think
Yeah,
there's
he
some
worked-
music
Yeah,
from
he worked
that.
on both.
But please, if there's specific questions you have, I'm writing it down.
The specific question is, I know in media power they did some editing that was questionable. There is
Surprise.
Wow.
there is one particular scene where all of the girls are thinking about their ideal man. And in the original version, Mint is thinking about like a male dancer, like a ballet dancer. Sorry. But in the dub, for some reason, they made her thinking about Zakuro, which is another member of her team. Which you know they did have like a thing in the Japanese version, but I'm just wondering why they changed it to that when usually it's the opposite way.
My
Okay,
guess
very
is
specific, right off the
No.
bat.
We're recording this, so I'll write this all down for sure. But the answer we're getting to a lot of that stuff is basically like, was that if in her fantasy, maybe that character looked too old. Or possibly, it's a lot of that. It's a lot of anything that could get a parent to write a letter to the network was changed. So that's the possible,
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said about like 4Kids like really kind of sanitizing stuff so they wouldn't have to deal with anything from standards and
Makes
practices.
so much sense. Yeah, because it's a young girl, a teenage girl.
And if they change it to a teenage boy,
right, and
there you go. Yeah.
They actually changed it to a teenage girl, so she's thinking about a girl instead of a boy.
Great.
Oh.
Well, I mean, great.
Just gals being gals.
Yeah.
I will say,
I don't want to tell you that's the definitive answer.
But that's often it.
And I will tell you that when we ask for very specific questions like that, it's unusual for them to exactly remember, but they do give us answers like that. Like,
Yeah.
and one thing I'll say is another reason why we're doing the show is like the human memory, nothing lasts forever.
It's
So
bad.
I think it's better, it was like strike while the iron is still kind of warm, I guess. And like, let's see like what people remember. So at the same time, also please not saying like that's not too specific a question, but sometimes like we'll get some people who's like, how come they changed like this thing in this one episode? Sorry, that's too big of an example, but I'm like, okay, that's a deep pull, but we'll ask.
but it's good to hear that there's people who want to know more about Mew Mew Power.
Yeah.
It's something we haven't. I see you.
and
And we'll make sure to hit it more for you guys.
Yeah. if it's not obviously a blind spot for me, it's like I didn't see enough of that show. But I am curious about it because I think it was supposed to premiere in the fall 2004, and then it got pushed back to like early 2005, and then of course it got canceled. So
Yeah. And someone on Twitter, today actually tagged me and said that in the National Archives, the Library of Congress in the archives, they have Library of Congress, they have all these episodes of Mew Mew Power.
let's go.
And also, it was released on DVD in South Africa.
Let's go.
This is the kind of stuff that we're learning.
Yeah.
So like, maybe you go on their eBay to find it, or like, you go take a trip to the Library of
Yeah,
Congress.
maybe we just organize a field trip to storm the Library of Congress.
No, do not storm government buildings.
Thank you very much. We'll go back.
And please let us know. No, we're not trying to start a riot here. Okay, let's settle down. We're just talking about anime, everybody.
It's not that serious.
So, what is your name and your question?
My name is Pichu.
Hi.
I was actually curious about the workplace relationships. Like, how well did the voice actors get to know each other and stuff?
We go into all of that, I promise. I mean, when I interview my friends, Steve doesn't get to talk.
You want to get smile enough. I will start with what's cool about this show for me is because, as Tara mentioned earlier, 4Kids was in New York. I'm originally a New Yorker too, not quite the city type, that's okay. But what's really nice is just hearing Tara talk with some of her peers. And they would run into each other at the studio, and then maybe they would go, right down the street because there's a bodega or something, or go to the Barnes and Noble.
Or the bar. We partied a lot together.
Yes.
Not gonna lie.
You were fresh out of college.
Yeah.
Lots of you,
Totally.
lots of your peers had bands, and you would go see their bands perform. It was like this communal thing that you really like. It feels like it's a very New York thing, which is and it's not quite the same out here in LA for me, but it's like you'll hear a lot of those stories, and it's nice. I just sit back and enjoy it. And it's some of my entertaining stuff. No, it's great.
I know, it's bad.
Yeah.
But
Good question.
I think it's fair to say there was a bit of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I was also curious about how the writing team worked because there were certain parts in like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX that they just made make more sense compared to the original in terms of plot and like character motivation.
Listen to our interview that's coming up with Matthew Durdek and Lloyd Goldfine will be coming up, and they will answer those questions for you.
Yay.
And I'll give you the gist of it. It was absolutely Americanized, without question, and they said there was a lot of air and a lot of silence and things, and we like questions. We watch TV differently, and they wanted to answer questions for the kids, and it wasn't a slight this is bad the way they did it, but it was we might have to spell this out in a different way.
Thank you very much. There are a lot of you, so I am going to
we'll
confine
go
everybody
super
to
fast.
one question, and we're going to go as fast as we possibly can. All right. What is your name and your question?
Hi, my name is Josie, and I've been, this is about Pokemon. That was my first show, and watching since the beginning. But about 10 years in, of course, there was an unfortunate voice actor shakeup, and it really messed me up. I went online, I'm like, what the heck happened? And what I realized was that the first decade with the original voice actors, for me at least, obviously very biased, was so personal and felt so alive. The characters felt like they had so much heart. And I don't know if it was, I'm going to say his name wrong, John Luffler.
He did the music.
Of 4Kids. What was the secret sauce of the company or whoever that made the show what it was?
Oh, that's so nice. I don't know that, okay, so I'll, shoot, I'm on 3 hours. I'll tell you this. So our interview with Norman Grossfeld does explain exactly what happened with the, why we couldn't continue working on the show. The original cast of the first 8 seasons, Nintendo, Pokemon USA said we'd like to handle the show. 4Kids thought, but they wanted their licensing back.
Right.
4Kids thought, we'll still continue to dub the show. They didn't know they were going to also lose that. Yeah. Other companies, I believe, underbid studio costs, things like that, but we had a sunset clause in our contracts that said we could not be part of the show if it moved somewhere else for 1 or 2 years, I can't remember. And 2 actors, I think, went to the boss and said, hey, are you going to enforce this clause? And he said, no, but you're not really welcome to continue working on our other shows if you go do that.
Right.
So, but the problem was that wasn't told to everybody. So some of those other actors might have chosen to stay with the show. And also, I mean, listen, Pokemon USA couldn't come after those actors. It would have been bad form.
Right.
So it got completely recast. As to what the secret formula was, I don't know. I think it was, also, it's a shakeup. So we were a finely tuned machine by season 8.
Sure.
And I think, you're leaving, if you jump from that to all a new writing team and a new cast, of course it's going to feel different. And again, I know a lot of the actors who are on the show now. I adore them. I work on the show now. Yeah. But it was just them starting back up. And I think if you give them the benefit of the doubt and then watch them a few episodes or seasons in, Sarah's wonderful. I mean, I would never say anything bad, but again, there was something magical about those offices, and that's a big part. Sorry, I'm talking too much. Big part of the podcast is there was something magical in that space. The musicians, John Siegler, they were down the hall. You could run into his office and be like, I need a cue for that scene. There was something about it all being in the same space.
Yes.
There were the editing team and stuff, the people who were, there's something called rotoscoping. If they needed something changed for a promo, they were down the hall. They needed a lip flap change, they were down the hall the other way. So I think it being on one floor, one building, was part of the magic.
Yeah.
And if I could just add one thing, sorry, I'll be quick. Secret sauce, I think a part of it is just the 90s, kind of just the different approach to dubbing. I just mean kind of like that. What was that?
It was the Wild West.
Well, I just say like there's a little bit of camp to it. And I think that while the 4Kids approach didn't work with every anime, it definitely worked with Pokemon. And
Smart, yeah.
that's my short answer to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, what is your name and your question?
Hi, I'm Chantal. I just wanted to see how, in your opinion, how did target demographics change how you censored or how you had to portray the voice acting? So like whether the show was more towards young girls or young boys.
Oh.
Because I know in the 90s they were very divisive.
It was very
don't
gendered.
cross genders.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they clearly made a concerted effort to acquire female-driven shows.
Yes.
I don't think the issues changed as much, except for like what they were censoring. So in the Yu-Gi-Ohs and the Ultimate Muscle, yeah, it was more take out the blood, take out the violence. In the Winx Club, in the Mew Mew, in the Magical Do-Re-Mi.
The fart jokes.
It was more, is the skirt too short? Is the cleavage too low? And again, it wasn't really stuff that the actors knew about. That was all done by the time we got there. But that was what for the editors and for those people what changed. Or again, is she fantasizing about somebody who's not age appropriate? There was a divorce storyline that I believe got cut from one of those, which is crazy because now we'd be like, great, a lesson about divorce.
Yeah.
So it was just different kinds of edits.
Good question. Hello, what is your name and your question?
My name is Carlos. My question is, if by chance you knew of a show or an anime that they tried to get on 4Kids, but they couldn't.
We recently talked about this. I forget who it was, but I think there might have been a deal to license the original Kinnikuman series. As some people just reacted to Ultimate Muscle. That's like the original series from the '80s. But I think it was just deemed just too old and too many inappropriate things to edit.
I think that's on our Paul Taylor interview.
Paul Taylor, yes.
His episode, I'm going to do a plug, is available on our Patreon, patreon.com/4kidsflashback.
Yes.
Where you can hear episodes early and ad-free. So he's up there right now, but he talked about that. Also, we just finally got our email response from someone in the acquisitions department.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So, we're trying.
It's coming.
But as far as I know, that's the only thing I can say with confidence.
Right.
I think everything else feels like a rumor.
Yeah.
They never tried to get Naruto. So.
That was one of the things.
Rumors to be dispelled on future episodes of the podcast.
One of the reasons why I like doing the show.
All right. Hello, what is your name and your question?
Hi, I'm Mossy. When I was a kid, I had like a CD and it had original Pokemon 4Kids songs on it, and I was like super obsessed with it. I would like play it in my room on my boombox all the time. I don't see other dubbing companies like do that ever, and what was that like?
To be a master?
Yeah.
He still listens to it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
still remember.
I think I might listen to that on my drive home.
I still remember the last stanza of the Poke Rap. I remember all of it.
It's downhill from here. Well, part of the reason why that exists is because 4Kids was a licensing company.
Yeah.
So the reason why they went after so many of these shows is because we could see this as toys, as cards, but also CDs on cereal boxes, the Kraft macaroni and cheese.
As a live musical.
Yes. Part of the reason why they redo the openings and endings and the background music is because there is profit to be made off of making that music.
The games.
Yeah.
It's because of the games, they said.
Really?
For that one. Yeah, they said Nintendo, because of Nintendo, they needed a new song for each season.
Oh, for the openings, yeah. But for like BGM, it's like, oh, if we redo the score, put that on CD,
We can sell those.
and we get all the profit. So that's why To Be a Master was made and was the...
And they also had I forgot the name of the publishing, the music house. They had 4Kids had a lot of like offshoots and stuff. There was a music company they had a relationship with. It's probably in the John Siegler episode and probably in the Norman episode and the Sean Conrad who sings the One Piece theme. You guys, if you only listen to one episode, listen to
That's
Sean
great.
Conrad. He was a professional rapper who happened to be an editor an engineer at 4Kids, and they were like, let's see if he wants to sing the rap, and he helped them write it, and the rest is history. But it was also that they had this. I don't know if it was they owned this music publishing company but they had yeah, I'm gonna screw it up. Definitely, we do get that answer.
But the reason why other companies don't do that is because they don't have a license for that. That's the Japanese side, and that's what, it gets messy in there. So that's why you really don't see that anymore.
So you want to be a master?
Thank you.
No, I gave you rights. Okay, great.
Thank you so much. All right, come on up. What is your name and your question?
My name is Stephen, and I'm just curious, did you ever lose your voice after a session at all?
All the time. Little boy voices were very hard for me, and that was the majority of what I did there. I played the Mokuba on, the big ones fighting Foodons. I was young, and all the time. I was a singer when I started working for 4Kids. I kind of let my musical theater career die down a lot because I was losing my voice so often working at 4Kids and on other voiceover work. And I can't just blame 4Kids. Thank you.
Happens. The voice is a delicate instrument. Your vocal cords are very small. Hello, what is your name and your question?
Hi, my name is Jenny. So speaking of all the music, the original music we've heard, like Pokemon had its whole soundtrack. You can find it on Spotify. Just so you know, if you search it up, it will pop up. Did you have any favorite songs that came out of that era, like theme songs, treasure songs, whatnot?
Me? Well, Tara just sang it. I love the Pokemon World opening. My hot take is I think I like that more than the original. I don't know, it just hits. It's energetic right off the bat. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Like West Taylor just hits you with that. So you want to be a master? I'm like, let's go. There's a YouTube series on the Pokemon channel. It was a CG original cartoon about Pokemon, and the dad is singing that in the car. I felt the most seen. The openings are so good.
Gotta go fast.
I was watching some Sonic X episodes on Netflix recently, kind of like prepping for another episode. And Netflix will immediately skip it, ending credits 3 seconds in. And
Well, and also a lot of times Netflix doesn't have the rights to the songs.
Right, yeah.
So they have to change their openings and
Even we know that. But it would cut the Sonic X ending. I'm like, how dare you? It's too good.
Yeah.
You have any other favorites? Or is that's...
Thank you so much. much.
Thank you.
Yes, hello, your name and your question.
My name's Daniel. My question is the 4Kids Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show, was that all anime inspired? Like the whole series?
Anime inspired?
No, not at all, actually.
I mean, like, no, like, well, there's elements of, like, Japanese, like, you know, definitely a lot of Japanese influence on the Turtle series as is.
Oh, yeah.
But that was more, I'd say, the biggest influence on the 2003 TMNT show is the original TMNT comic. By
Oh,
Bob.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just editing an episode with Lloyd Goldfine, who was in charge of that series, the 2003 Ninja Turtles. And here's a little teaser. So basically, he had heard a rumor that the WB was going to be making, and please forgive me if I get a couple of details wrong, was going to be remaking the Turtles.
Yeah, it was
And
WB or Nickelodeon or
I think
something.
it was something.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was a huge Turtles fan. And he said, I don't want to see that show. And he says this, and he said, so Norman, the president, and I figured out a way. We got to who's the guy who has started Turtles?
Kevin Eastman.
Kevin. Yeah, he's like, we met with Kevin, and we were like, here's the version that we are going to make, and it's so much better than the version you are about to make. And they got it.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, Lloyd was a fan. Lloyd was already working in animation.
Yeah.
This guy was Lloyd Goldfine. You can look him up. He was the real deal.
We could have done an entire episode on TMNT. But
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's too much to get into.
Yeah.
But that's, and I mean, Steve had, he's like, that show was, there's a word to use, but you didn't, because it was for 4Kids, I think people were pleasantly surprised with.
Like, kind of disarmed. Like, it definitely got away with way more, but I think what's so special about that show is it was entirely in production at 4Kids. They had the animation team working there. And Tara was talking about it earlier, but kind of like just like this kind of community kind of experience with everything being on one floor. You had that on that show, and I think that's another reason why that show was a huge success.
Yeah. Hello, what is your name and your question?
Hi, my name is Alice. So I work in animation myself too.
Oh.
So S&P, like finger guns for us was like the biggest thing.
S&P?
Yeah,
you might have to interview you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of funny because like I work in animation myself, and then hearing what you guys are saying and with stuff like that, I feel like it just sanitizes stuff, and I feel like it kind of does a disservice to our kids. And I even went to like a talk hosted by Guillermo del Toro, and he was kind of like when he was talking about was it Pinocchio, and he was having a lot of hard times getting that movie made because it's too scary, too dark.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of want to hear you guys' opinions, like if you could like redo some of these like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh episodes, like how would you do it to like still teach a lesson, like with the whole thing about the episode of divorce, like how would you make it appropriate but still teaches kids lessons and but still dark?
I will say, like, right off the bat, I think people tend to really underestimate the intelligence of children. I think they're a lot smarter than they're given credit for, so I think they can handle things like that. But I think, like, then again, like target demographics, that comes into effect.
Yeah, and I think part of the problem is when it's new animation, there's no issue because you can write it the way you want. With Ninja Turtles, he said, a lot of the real violent stuff happened off screen, but you didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
Because we were sneaky enough to do it in a certain way. When you're dealing with the dub, you can't reanimate it.
Yeah.
So they might have had a great idea about how to fix that storyline to work or whatever, but they couldn't reanimate it. Yeah. So with new animation, I mean, there's no issue, which is great. With dubs, we're still figuring out, but again, there's Netflix and there's all these places. The things I would like to go back and redo, I mean, I wouldn't change, I would still not have it be a cigarette. You can't.
There's things like that. It's kind of like, you gotta, like, there's like a limit.
Absolutely, the cultural stuff, 100%. Keep it in. Now it would be a teachable moment for children.
Yes.
And that's great. Listen, you know what? I think it's a sign of how far we've come. That show would be dubbed in a different way today, and it would all be teachable moments. And we'd see little 5-year-olds saying onigiri, and it would be adorable.
And it's not just the Japanese stuff too, but like you said, you work in animation. I'm talking about bygone era and all that, and I'm not going to be some 90s kid here preaching that TV was better or shows were better when I was growing up. I think animation's gotten a lot more emotionally intelligent and does treat its audience with a little more respect. So I think in terms of original animation, we're getting there. And also, anime, I think, is the biggest it's ever been in the West with popularity. And so, and I think kids are watching shows pretty much as are, because they're probably watching on streaming. So I think we got there. I think it's up to the parents' discretion at this point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Name and question, please.
My name is Aaron. The question I want to ask is, you guys mentioned, was it like Lost Media?
Yeah.
I was wondering if you guys worked on the that one video that came out for Pokemon that was released to different people from Toys R Us, if they don't remember.
Oh yeah,
with the different Yu-Gi-Oh?
It's basically like, it was a video that has like everything about Pokemon, like it showed like a lot of the anime, the card game, the video. It's just like a way to, hey guys, get hyped for this thing. It's like a, they call it a brainwash video.
Brainwash video.
Yeah, a lot of you guys like how did he work in that in 4Kids or not?
Have you seen that one? I haven't seen
I don't
that
know
one.
that one, but so we have a YouTube channel where I'm putting everything we get like that. So it's just at 4Kids Flashback on YouTube. We're compiling everything we can on there, all the theme songs that we can legally put on there, all the toys. We have a bunch of promo videos. A lot of them are through Toys R Us or Blockbuster. So whatever we can put on there, we have on there. I'm not sure if that one is, because some of them we could only put on our Patreon because of it was we have.
Okay.
So so please check our YouTube out, and we are, if you find anything, please send it to us and we will add it to our YouTube channel.
But also, if it's already on YouTube, it probably means it's not lost. But
yes.
Just
maybe I'll look around for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like those, because there's a Yu-Gi-Oh one, there's a Foxbox one. We're aware of them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to get to everybody's questions, so I
We'll give you guys all ribbons and
apologize.
everything
But
and
yeah, we'll give you
everything.
ribbons.
We have stickers that Steve
Yes,
designed.
Steve brought stickers. So don't stress. And also, Terry's got signings and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I'll be
Come
up
say hi to
at
you.
2:30 to 5:30. I have all this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hello, but I do have time for you. So what is your name and your question?
Hi, my name is Riz. I run a fan blog for the Tokyo Mew Mew and Mew Mew series. Obviously, I'm a big fan of it. I do a lot of archival work for the series as well. So one of the things that the fandom has always kind of wondered about is what's happening behind the scenes with a show like Mew Mew Power that only had half of the series ever dubbed. There was never a dub for the second half of the series, and it got dropped halfway through, and nobody ever picked it back up again. So I would love to hear from industry professionals, what is going on there when a series only goes halfway and then abruptly stops, especially when it's so beloved, especially by young girls.
I think I said earlier, I think it was Jim Malone that we had on. I'm like, I should ask him more Tokyo Mew Mew questions.
I'll email them tonight.
I could just assume this is not the definitive answer, but usually if you're wondering how come this show didn't last or they stopped airing it, ratings were probably bad. It's probably the ratings were not there. So I mentioned that F-Zero show. They rolled out the red carpet for that. Didn't last probably because it wasn't pulling in an audience.
But it's all about us what the tricky part is sometimes the producer is not the one, never got an answer to that question. Sometimes it was somebody completely different. So that's why we're doing as many as we can, because somebody has to know. Right. So hopefully, so I have it on my list.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right, this is going to have to be our final question, so I'm going to really trust you here for a second. I'm going to hand you this microphone so I can go down the line here and hand all these people ribbons, okay? So first of all, these ribbons are for you.
Thank you.
This microphone is for you. Don't say anything weird.
Hi. My name is Jared. I'd like to know, earlier you said something about editing. Sorry.
It's okay.
Have you guys done an episode for your podcast about the ways that text would be edited out of shows?
Yes.
I remember.
I
remember.
Oh God, who was it? You were gonna have to.
There was a few people.
ribbons too.
Crystal, a few people answered this, but you know the
Because I remember when I was watching some of that stuff way back when. I remember stuff like Pokemon Sonic X and stuff like that would edit out both Japanese and English text.
English, okay.
With
Cool.
Sonic X, they'd replace it with scribbles and stuff. But
Right.
one of the later 4Kids dubs for Go-Go Riki had unedited Russian text in it. I was
Can't explain that.
Seems like an oversight.
Here's the answer why even English text would be removed. Is one of the things 4Kids tried doing was they edit this anime, they get it ready, and one of the things is they can also pitch this to other countries. They could sell this version to France and be like, hey, if you just dub this version, this is already good to go, it's edited, you just gotta put in the voices. So the reason why English text is removed, because this might air in another country, so we'll do them a favor and we'll move English and just to, just to sell it to other countries. So if they want to license the show, it's like, oh, well, if we license the 4Kids version, they already did the work for us.
That's why, like, I forgot there was like an episode where there's a horse ranch or something, and it
Yeah,
said,
Ultimate
like,
Muscle.
Yeah, so it had like horse ranch on it, and they just changed it to a picture of a horse. So they, you know, what I think it was Norman said, they wanted a kid in France to feel like Pokemon was made for them. They wanted a kid in Russia to feel like it was made for them, and by having no text, that was their way of accomplishing that.
Yep.
Be any city, anywhere.
Makes it universal.
Yeah.
The language of the visual medium that everybody understands. Thank you all so much for coming to the panel today. Yes, please.
I think we gotta clear the room.
Yeah, we have more. Yeah, we have more ribbons. We have more.
But I got some stickers if you want.
Stickers.
If you like us so much, you feel like repping us as a sticker.
He made